Alright everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bear's Guide to a 5. The last video was definitely long and we're going to get through this one as fast as possible. A much smaller topic. We're talking about lingua francas and isoglosses. Pretty simple, straightforward, let's get into it. So before we can get into lingua francas and isoglosses, we first have to understand dialects, right? We all know what dialects are because when we hear people speak English, it's different based on, your cultural background. So what makes up a dialect? Well, it's three things: spelling, pronunciation, and vocabulary. You can spell things differently, you can pronounce things differently, and you can have different words for the same exact thing. For example, in England they say lorry, and here we say, box truck or a truck. And of course with the accents and stuff like that. And the question, like, why is reading Shakespeare so difficult? Because it's just English, and it's because it's in a different dialect. So it gets really frustrating to try and understand. And on top, it's old on top of that, and he made up words, but the dialect itself is tough, right? And that's why we have a hard time dealing with it. And that's what takes us to isoglosses, right? So we know people say different things based on their region, but what we can do is identify what region they're from based on their dialect. And that's what we call an isogloss. So we know people use different words for the same thing. Like in this example, we know some people say you guys, we know some people say y'all. In the north, they say you guys. In the south, we say y'all. And then there's that weird part of northeast US where they say yous guys, which is a very strange thing. So we recognize that there's different phrases, and this is dialect. But if I'm, say, traveling and all of a sudden I start hearing everyone say you guys, I'm now in a different region, right? That's what this change in dialect does. It tells me where an isogloss is happening. So I don't know where this region starts or stops based on this isogloss, but I know that it exists. And yeah, it's a vernacular region. It's a perceptual region. So we can use language, and dialect is a reflection of culture to find vernacular regions. Shout out to Unit 1. So what the heck is a lingua franca? We've covered dialect, we've covered isoglosses. Now let's talk about this concept. So a franca is a language that's used for international trade. Now there's a really important part to this because English is one of the most majorly used lingua francas. And what you have to understand, there's two very important parts to saying what a lingua franca is. Not only is it for international trade, but it's a language that's understood by people with different primary languages. So let's look at an example. So in other words, they use English because they know that even if someone is German or Japanese, they have a better chance of recognizing English. So say you have a German business person and a Japanese business person, and they want to do, they want to work out some type of trade deal, say their governments are meeting, or say some private business people. Sure, the Japanese person could speak German and the German person could speak Japanese. But what happens when the German person goes and meets someone from Portugal? Are they going to force the Portuguese person to speak German? Is the Portuguese person going to force the German speaker to speak Portuguese? This is all very confusing. Instead, they all just know English and they all speak English to each other. That's what makes a lingua franca. So what are some other lingua francas used? We know that Arabic, Chinese, French, Russian, Spanish, and Swahili in East Africa are all possible lingua francas. And that's about it. That's all you really need to know. I told you this would be really quick. So just know the three parts that make up a dialect. Understand how isoglosses are used to differentiate different language dialects and reveal vernacular regions. And then finally, understand what a lingua franca is, know the very specific definition, and know why we use them throughout the world. That was super easy. We're already done. Under 5 minutes. Look at that. So make sure to hit that like button because you're so happy about it. Hit the subscribe button and that bell icon so you know when new videos are released. And as always, this is Bear's Guide to a 5. We'll see you next time.